Continuing our conversation about Raja Ram Mohan Roy's monumental work, Vedic Physics, Scientific Origin of Hinduism.
It really is a fascinating intellectual undertaking. In our last deep dive, we pretty much established the grand cosmic blueprint.
The big picture, right. The structure of the universe is this expanding egg, the three parallel spaces, observer, intermediate, and light, and, the big elemental forces like Agni or energy.
Exactly. We were operating at the macrocosmic scale, the absolute biggest picture you can imagine.
And now we are performing what feels like a truly dramatic pivot. We are zooming right in.
All the way in.
Not just to the atom, but to the subatomic heart of reality itself. We're going from the vast, turbulent edge of the universe right down to the fundamental particles and forces that govern, everything.
And our sources for this part of the conversation, chapters 9 through 12, are where the author really starts to systematically decode the Ṛgveda's references to these microscopic entities.
Right. So our mission here is to really analyze how these Vedic concepts, which, often look like minor deities or just natural objects, how they map so precisely onto modern physics.
We're learning about quarks, electrons, the whole creation-annihilation mechanism, and even the intricate relationship between electricity and magnetism. We're looking for a scientific vocabulary hidden under layers of metaphor.
And what makes this so compelling, I think, is the sheer rigor of the claim. The idea that the Vedic sages weren't just guessing.
No, not at all.
They set up this incredible coding structure where familiar things, animals, specific colors, even relationships like friend, were systematically assigned as symbols.
All to ensure the survival of this highly abstract knowledge through an oral tradition, protected by poetry of all things.
It's amazing.
The systematic nature is really the key. If you approach the text not as mythology, but as a complex field manual, the connections we're about to explore become surprisingly detailed and logical.
It really does demonstrate a pre-existing theory of matter and force that seems to rival contemporary models in its complexity.
It absolutely does.
Okay, so let's unpack this. Let's start at the beginning of the observable world, which the Vedic texts call Pashu.
Right. Now, in common language, Pashu just means animal.
That's what everyone knows it as.
But scientifically, the author identifies it as the observable particle.
And that translation is, it's everything, isn't it?
It's critical. The root of the word Pashu literally means to see. So the text explains that Pashu is derived from that exact moment when
the supreme being, or
right.
in this context, the entire unobservable universe.
Exactly. When that unobservable potential transformed into a form that could actually be perceived. It's the conceptual boundary between what could be and what is.
So the very act of localization or observation turns the potential, the puru, into the particle, the Pashu.
And that right there establishes the first major link. The observable particle inherently contains or is created from energy.
It's not just a static lump of stuff.
Precisely. The Satapatha Brahmana is explicit about this. It says that Prajapati saw Agni energy in these Pashus. And what's more, the Pashus are also associated with Maruta.
Which we identified earlier as radiation, sort of like a cosmic wind.
Yes. So this isn't just about mass. It's about a dynamic entity. The particle itself is understood to be a manifestation of energy that is constantly radiating or, involved in some kind of energetic exchange.
Okay, so if Pashu is the general term for particle, the texts then get way more specific. They consistently focus on 4 particular Gramya Pashus, or domesticated animals.
That's right. The horse, which is Ashva, the cow, Gal, the goat, Aja, and the sheep, Avi.
And the question is, why these 4? Why are these chosen to represent the core fundamental particles?
Well, they're consistently highlighted because they seem to represent 4 fundamental classes of particles, the ones essential for the structure of matter and for the universe's expansion. But to really get it, you have to look at their origin story.
The difference between once-born and twice-born particles.
That's the one, is a hierarchy of manifestation.
Okay, so let's start with the once-born.
That would be Athaja, the goat. It's called Akaja. Now, what's really intriguing is that Aja literally means not born.
Not born? How can a particle be not born?
In the Vedic physics model, Aja is identified as localized energy. It's that unstable intermediate step when pure, limitless energy, what they call Savitā, begins to condense or localize into a particle.
Ah, I see. So because pure energy is eternal, it was never born, and Aja retains that characteristic while it's acting as the precursor.
You've got it. The Ṛgveda even supports this, saying that Aja was born from the perturbation of Agni, of energy.
So Aja is that critical point of transformation. It's the energy field just on the cusp of becoming a potential particle.
And that localized energy then fully manifests or is reborn into the other three.
The twice-born particles. Avi the sheep, Ṛgva the horse, and Gau the cow.
Exactly. They are the stable, fully formed particles that are derived from Aja. This gives you a very specific systematic hierarchy. It suggests that while, modern physics has 6 types of quarks, the Vedic system might be coding for the 4 most universally relevant or stable classes of these entities.
With Aja representing that unstable transformational state that's common to how they all begin.
That's the idea. And the poetic descriptions of these particles make it impossible to mistake them for literal animals.
Oh, absolutely. Take the Ṛgva particle, the horse. It's described as flying, having wings of an eagle and arms of a deer. I mean, that's clearly not a horse.
Not at all. It's a reference to a highly mobile, complex subatomic structure. The text even associates Ṛgva with the concept of trita, which means 1/3, and says it has 3 bindings in heaven.
A numerical association.
A very specific one. That, combined with the description of rapid, multifaceted motion, strongly suggests a fundamental particle. Perhaps a type of quark that's involved in high-speed interactions, or maybe one that carries a fraction of the unit electric charge. The language is detailing his quantum mechanical properties.
This brings us to what I think is one of the most remarkable connections in this entire section, the Vedic concept of Paśyamita.
The animal sacrifice.
On the surface, it seems purely ritualistic, maybe even barbaric to a modern reader. But the often translates this ritual into a fundamental law of physics.
And this is such a crucial piece of the decoding puzzle. The Vedic definition of yajna, sacrifice, is fundamentally a change of form or state. It's not about literal killing.
The transformation.
Yes, and the author posits that since these fundamental particles, these quarks, cannot exist in isolation, they're perpetually bound together inside nucleus. Their potential singular form is eternally sacrificed.
It's contained within the compound structure. That is a direct and startling parallel to the modern principle of quark confinement.
It really is.
The fundamental law that says you can't observe free quarks because the force binding them, the strong nuclear force, it just increases exponentially as you try to pull them apart.
Right. If you try to separate them, it takes so much energy that you just end up creating new quark-antiquark pairs instead. You never get a free one.
So Paśyamita codes for this permanent confinement. The sacrifice is the state change imposed by the strong interaction. You can try to break the Paśyu apart, but you just end up making more Paśyus.
It's an incredibly deep philosophical and scientific leap.
And there's more to support it. Let's talk about the 3 Aptya gods, Ikara, Dvita, and Trita.
Okay, so they emerged from Agni energy, which was hiding in Āpaḥ, the matter-antimatter fluid, and they stayed with Indra, the electric force.
But their names are the key, right?
Their names are 1 2/3 and 1/3.
That's unbelievable.
The numerical specificity is what shocked modern particle physicists when they finally confirmed the existence of quarks. Particles that carry fractional electrical charges, either plus 2/3 or minus 1/3 of an electron's charge.
Modern physics struggled for decades to prove that a subatomic particle could even have a fractional charge. It went against all the early expectations of these neat, quantized unit charges.
It absolutely did.
So for the Ṛgveda to explicitly code for entities that bear unit 1 2/3 23 and 1/3 13 electrical charges, and to place them at the very foundation of matter, that cannot be an accident.
It speaks to an understanding of the internal structure of the proton and the neutron long, long before Rutherford or Gell-Mann. And the coding system doesn't stop there. It extends to quantum numbers.
Specifically, the use of color. Tell us more about the Vedic use of color coding for these particles.
The source mentions the Vedic use of 3 colors, red, white, and black, for Aja, the localized energy, and Avi, the sheep particle.
And this is identified as mirroring the 3 internal quantum colors, red, green, and blue, that are used in modern quantum chromodynamics, or QCD.
Yeah.
And just to remind everyone, why did modern physics need color in the first place?
Well, it was necessary to solve a fundamental quantum mechanical problem. the Pauli exclusion principle.
Hmm.
How could three identical quarks exist together inside a baryon, like a proton, without violating that principle?
They needed a way to tell them apart.
Exactly. So to distinguish them, physicists arbitrarily assigned them a property, and they called it color charge. The Vedic text's use of red, white, and black for the foundational particle variations strongly suggests a mechanism for internal differentiation. It's a parallel to the modern solution.
So if the Vedic physicists were this detailed, then the reverence for the Gau particle, the sacred cow, that has to be scientifically motivated too.
It must be.
It's called Agni, which means should not be killed.
And that is a scientific mandate coded as reverence. Agni means you must not destroy this fundamental component because it is crucial for cosmic existence.
Why is it so crucial?
The Gau particle, being charged, is identified as the producer of the electric force, Indra. And that force is necessary for the expansion and stabilization of the universe. So destroying Gau means collapsing reality.
But the author also connects Gau to the concept of masslessness,
Yeah.
which that seems contradictory. A fundamental particle that gives mass to the atom shouldn't be massless.
This is where a more nuanced understanding comes in. The Ṛgveda has this profound statement. It asks, what does not possess mass? And the answer is Cow does not possess mass.
That's very strange.
It is, but it suggests the Gau particle might not be the quark itself, but rather the mechanism or the carrier of the charge, the electric field, or a component intrinsically linked to charge and its propagation, which, like a photon, can be massless.
So it's the source of the electric charge, Indra, which drives cosmic expansion.
That's the idea.
Yeah.
And to definitively prove these aren't literal animals, the sages give them these impossible anatomies.
Right. Cows with 1, 2, 4, 8, or even 9 legs. And the description, accurate 8 ears.
That impossible anatomy is the failsafe. It's the clear signal to the initiate saying, look, this is a concept, not a creature.
The multiple legs or ears are coding for different quantum properties, interactions, or states of charge.
And they're said to be produced at the mountain, which we previously identified as the surface of the universe, reinforcing their role in the genesis of space, matter, and energy during cosmic expansion. So the prayers for cows in the Vedas, they're really prayers for the fundamental building blocks and the mechanism of electric force.
Okay, so the particles themselves are only half the story. Chapter 10 moves us to the larger energetic process of conversion, starting with Savitā.
Identified as the creation-annihilation energy. This is the mechanism that governs all matter transformation.
The engine room of the universe.
That's a great way to put it. The root of the word, su, means to procreate, which is exactly what creation-annihilation energy does. It's the potential energy that gives birth to the posthus, the matter particles, and then absorbs them back upon annihilation.
The text Ṛgveda affirms that Savitā gives birth to all.
It does. It's the source of everything.
Now, the most striking metaphor for Savitā is its intimate connection to the color gold, Hiranja. Golden chariot, golden axle, golden hands, eyes, tongue. I mean, why this deep obsession with gold?
This is a consistent color code you see used throughout Vedic science. Gold is the color of energy.
Simple as that.
It signifies purity, immense power, and stability, all characteristics of a fundamental creation-annihilation energy. Every time a deity is described with gold, it's a systematic way of signaling that this deity represents a form of universal, powerful energy that instigates transformation.
And this energy isn't just passive. It's governed by strict, inviolable laws.
Absolutely. The source quotes Ṛgveda 2.3.9, which states that Savitā's laws cannot be violated by any of the other major deities or forces.
Not by Indra, the electric force, not by Varuja, the electron, not even by Rudra, radiation.
This is the Vedic coding for the laws of thermodynamics and the conservation of mass energy. Savitā is the ultimate lawmaker. It places the principle of energy conservation and transformation at the absolute apex of the physical hierarchy, above everything else.
Its actions are the fundamental constraints of reality.
Yes, and it's so important to remember the distinction the text makes between Savitā and Surya, the sun or light.
Right, because in later interpretations, they kind of merged together.
They did, and that lost the scientific meaning. If Savitā were just the sun, it would just be light. But the text is clear. Savitā resides in the intermediate space, the atmosphere or field space, and it instigates Surya, or light, in the light space, or heaven.
So Savitā is the energetic potential and the mechanism that governs the relationship between mass and energy. Surya is the observable outcome light itself.
That distinction is what allows the model to separate the abstract causal mechanism from the concrete observable result. It's incredibly sophisticated.
Okay, so if Savitā is the transformation energy, we then move to Pu.
Who is identified as the set of particles, the collective result of that energy in action.
Pu literally means the nourisher, and is called Paṣupa, the guardian or nourisher of the Paṣus, the particles.
Which fits perfectly, as the entire collection of matter particles is what sustains the universe. And the sources note that there are 8 complete hymns dedicated exclusively to Pu.
This is a moment where we really need to pause and explore the synchronicity with 20th century physics. I mean, number 8 can seem random, but in particle classification, it's profoundly significant.
Oh, it is. In 1961, Murray Gell-Mann and Yuval Ne'eman independently developed a classification system for hadron particles made of quarks.
And it was based on the mathematical symmetry group SU3.
That's right. And Gell-Mann famously dubbed this scheme the eightfold way.
Because the arrangement of particles just naturally fell into octets, into groups of 8.
Exactly. And this classification system allowed for the successful prediction of the omega-minus particle, which completely revolutionized particle physics.
So the fact that Pia, the deity representing the entire set of particles, is honored with 8 complete hymns, that could be a direct coding of this organizational structure, a system for classifying matter based on internal symmetries.
It's highly compelling. It suggests the Vedic sages were coding not just the existence of the particles, but the elegant mathematical relationship between them.
And the text goes further, describing Pia as having 2 forms, one black and one white.
Representing the entire collection of particles and their corresponding antiparticles. It emphasizes the totality and the balance of the complete particle set.
So let's trace the full transformation loop that these entities govern, this energy-matter cycle.
It's a dynamic, closed system. You start with Savitā, the creation-annihilation energy.
Which transforms into Ajna, the localized energy or intermediate state.
Right. Ajna then fully manifests as Pia, the set of particles.
And then eventually the particles decay or are annihilated, transforming back into Ajna.
And then that localized energy state is recycled back into the limitless potential of Savitā energy. It's a perfect loop.
A beautiful description of the conservation of mass and energy. How energy becomes matter and matter returns to energy. And this constant dynamic is even shown in what drives Pia.
Yes, his vehicle. Pu is driven by Ajoha.
Which means?
It means one whose goats perform the function of horses. And since Aja, the goat, is localized energy.
The localized energy is literally what drives the collective particle set throughout the cosmos.
It confirms that the energetic transformation mechanism is the fundamental source of all motion and existence for the entire particle zoo.
Okay, so we've covered the fundamental building blocks, the Paṣus or quarks, and the transformation process. Now we can move to the stable, visible components of the atom.
Starting with Chapter 11 and Varuta, who is identified as the electron.
And the name Varuta means one who covers.
A definition that is perfectly aligned with its function. The electron covers the atom. The electron cloud is what determines the volume and the chemical properties of an atom.
It's essentially the atom's shell or skin, the coverer.
Precisely.
But it's the poetic language used to describe Varuta that truly bridges the ancient text with quantum mechanics. This idea of Varuta's spies and his net.
This is where the physics coding gets incredibly abstract and sophisticated.
So Varuta employs these spies who see everything, and he captures offenders in his net. What could that possibly mean scientifically?
Scientifically, the spies are identified as virtual particles. In modern quantum field theory, virtual particles are continuously emitted and absorbed by a charged particle, like an electron, to mediate force.
So the electron is constantly sending out these spies to probe its environment and determine how it should interact.
Which is exactly how modern scientists describe the electron's dynamic influence. The metaphor is startlingly accurate. The electron acts like an octopus, perpetually engaging in these virtual exchanges.
And the net that captures offenders.
That's the electric field that surrounds the electron. And Varuta's power, his Maya, is the attractive electric force.
Let's delve into Maya for a second, because in popular culture, Maya just means illusion.
Right. But here, the author derives it from its root, ma, which means to measure.
So why is the electron's attractive electric force defined by measurability?
Well, this is a crucial philosophical and scientific point. It implies that the electric force isn't arbitrary. It's the force that adheres most rigorously to quantifiable, predictable law. The electron's behavior, its charge, its orbits, its fields, is the most predictable and measurable aspect of the atom.
So Maya is the measured law. The rigorous, law-abiding nature of the electric force is inherently quantifiable.
Exactly. And the coding goes even further, associating Varut with night, dark, and black.
Which systematically aligns with the electron's negative electric charge.
It does. The Siddhapatha Brahmad states that everything black belongs to Varuta, and this sets up a perfect opposition, which is necessary for the next atomic component.
Before we get there, the source also mentions a parallel between Varuta and the Iranian deity Ahura Mazda.
Yes, just briefly, it's worth noting that Varuja's role as the keeper of cosmic law aligns him with Ahura Mazda. Both represent the maintenance of stringent, predictable order in the universe.
Okay, so that brings us to his opposite, to Mitra, identified as the proton.
And the name Mitra means friend.
Which is just a beautiful way to capture the nature of protons, which are confined to sit together like friends inside the nucleus by the strong force.
And Mitra completes the charge and color code. He is associated with day, brightness, and white, representing the positive electric charge.
The Atarya Brahman confirms the duality. Mitra is day and Varut is night.
So Mitra-Varyo, the proton-electron pair, form the foundational stable structure.
Hydrogen, the most abundant element in the universe. So the worship of this pair is essentially the recognition of atomic stability itself.
It is. It's the acknowledgement of the basic electrical balance that's required for matter to exist at all. But to build anything heavier, of course, you need the third component.
And that would be Aryama, who is identified as the neutron.
Aryama also means friend, which fits its role, sitting alongside the protons and binds them together.
So that completes the essential atomic triad: electron, proton, and neutron.
It does. However, the most profound insight in this entire chapter is a structural anomaly related to Aryama. The text confirms that Aryama has no separate hymn dedicated to him in the Ṛgveda.
And that seems like an unbelievable oversight. I mean, for a deity representing one of the three core atomic components, it feels like something is missing.
Unless, as we suspect, this absence is the ultimate piece of intentional scientific coding.
It's the most elegant piece of physics in the entire system, isn't it?
It really is. You have to remember, the praises or hymns that reach the deities are understood as the propagation of the field, the communication network within the Ṛgveda.
Okay.
And Aryama, the neutron, is charge neutral. It is not affected by the electric field, by Indra.
Ah. So if the electric field is the vehicle for communication, for the hymns and praise, then a neutral particle cannot be reached or praised through that vehicle.
Its lack of a hymn is a direct reflection of its charge neutrality.
That's phenomenal. It's a validation of the entire systematic approach. The sages didn't just describe the neutron, they described its interaction profile relative to the dominant force, which is electricity.
The neutral particle operates outside the electric communications network, and the very structure of the text confirms this physical truth. It's brilliant.
Okay, so we have the particles in the atomic structure. Now we have to define the forces that connect them. We turn to chapter 12 and the decoding of electromagnetism through these powerful metaphors of Soma and Madhu.
Let's start with Soma, which is identified as electric charge.
So Soma is the source, the essence itself. If Varut is the electron, the particle carrier, then Soma is the property that it carries.
Exactly. And Indu, the Soma juice, is then identified as electricity, the flow of that charge.
The text describes Soma as being continually mixed with Āpaḥ, with water, and we've already established that Āpaḥ is the matter-antimatter fluid of the intermediate space.
Right, so this suggests that matter and antimatter particles are inherently electrically charged, and Soma describes the distribution and behavior of this charge within that fundamental fluid.
The connection to annihilation is also reinforced here.
It is. The annihilation of charged matter and antimatter creates Agni, energy. This solves that old puzzle of how fire, Agni, can reside in waters, Āpaḥ. Soma is the trigger for that powerful energetic release.
So we've established the electric force, Indra, and its source, Soma. But electromagnetism requires two parts. And the great secret revealed in this section is the identity of the magnetic field.
Hidden within the knowledge of Madhu-vidya.
Yes. Madhu means honey, and Madhu-vidya is literally the secret knowledge of honey.
It's presented as this essential, often obscured knowledge that you need to complete the physical system. And the identity of Madhu is the magnetic field.
So why would the magnetic field be considered secret or hidden knowledge? I mean, the electric field, Indra, that often manifests as these spectacular thunderbolts. It's so visible.
That's exactly why. The magnetic field is often a much more subtle secondary effect. Electric forces are easily produced, and they could be visibly dramatic lightning static charge.
Right.
Magnetism, however, is a field that's generated only by a moving charge. For a long time in classical physics, electricity and magnetism were seen as two completely separate phenomena.
So the Vedic sages, by calling it Madhuvidya, the knowledge of honey, they're acknowledging that this force is not as immediately obvious as Indra.
But that it's crucial for cosmic order. It's the knowledge you have to search for to truly understand the universe.
And the connection between the magnetic field, Madhu, and its sources is systematically coded through the twin gods, the Ashvins.
Who are identified as the magnetic poles.
And their entire existence is just saturated with this metaphor of honey.
Completely. They are Matuyu, which means filled with honey. They are Madhupatama, drinkers of honey. Their chariot is the color of honey, Madhuvada.
And they carry a whip that's soaked in honey, Madhumatnikasha.
This incredibly detailed representation is all there to emphasize the intimate and inseparable connection between the magnetic poles, the Ashvins, and the magnetic field, Madhu.
You can't have one without the other.
You can't. And that concept perfectly mirrors the fundamental law that magnetic monopoles isolated north or south poles do not exist in nature. Magnetic poles always come in pairs.
Just as the quarks were confined, so too are the magnetic poles.
Exactly. The Ashvins are constantly referred to as twins, which reinforces that duality. They're said to be the concealer of imperfection and all-pervading, confirming their subtle but absolutely essential role in maintaining the total cosmic order.
And what's more, the activities of the Ashvins show that the magnetic field is pervasive across all realms of reality.
That's right. The source notes that the Ashvins travel 3 times in the night and 3 times a day, across the 3 spaces we've defined.
Pathivi, the observer space, Antarita, the intermediate or field space, and Tao, the light space.
This is a clear statement that the magnetic field, and thus the unified electromagnetic force, pervades all levels and dimensions of the universe. It confirms its universality.
And the fact that their chariot has 3 tires and 3 supporting pillars just reiterates this tripartite comprehensive influence.
It does.
This entire section provides what is really a startlingly unified field theory. The sages understood that charge, Soma, produces a direct force, Indra, and also a secondary yet equally critical field, Madhu, mediated by the poles, the Ashvins.
It's the Vedic equivalent of Maxwell's equations, but expressed in this poetic mnemonic format. They understood the interdependence of the electric and magnetic forces thousands of years before they were unified in the modern era.
This deep dive has truly taken us from the cosmic to the quantum. I mean, we've moved beyond just philosophical interpretation and revealed a meticulously detailed scientific framework coded within chapters 9 through 12.
We really have. We decoded Āpaḥ as quarks and fractional charges, Savitā as the universal energy mechanism, and identified the essential atomic components, Varut as the electron, Mitra as the proton.
And the elegantly charged neutral Arama as the neutron.
And then we identified the forces that connect them, Soma as electric charge and Madhu as the ubiquitous magnetic field. The methodology is consistent and systematic all the way through.
They utilized observable phenomena, like the difference between day and night for positive and negative charge, or the confinement of quarks reflected in the ritual of Paśameta.
All to safeguard truths that modern physics only confirmed in the last century.
What stands out to me is the intellectual honesty of the coding. The fact that the lack of hymns for the neutron is coded right into the religious text based on its actual physical property, its charge neutrality, that shows an unparalleled commitment to scientific preservation over just ritualistic completeness.
The complexity they captured, regarding confinement, fractional charge, neutrality in unified fields is, well, it's just shocking. This detailed framework, disguised through these vivid analogies of animals and friends and spies and honey, provides a startlingly sophisticated picture of reality that modern science is still exploring.
And that systematic nature confirms that this is only a partial view of a much larger blueprint. We've established the particles and the forces.
That's right. Our next segment will move into the subsequent chapters of the book to analyze how this particle physics framework scales up. We'll look at concepts tying this micro-world knowledge into the grand cosmic dance of light, creation, and the full dynamics of the universe.
It leaves you with this provocative thought. How deeply must this knowledge have been understood for the Vedic scientists to ensure that not a single letter of this body of knowledge be altered for thousands of years, all while being presented as engaging poetry and mythology? The commitment to preserving this truth, disguised as beautiful worship, is perhaps the greatest challenge to our understanding of ancient history.
Continuing our conversation as we navigate Raja Ram Mohan Roy's remarkable work, Vedic Physics, Scientific Origin of Hinduism.
Exactly. Last time we really just laid the groundwork.
The absolute fundamentals.
Right. We established the conceptual language, the cosmic stages, those foundational particles like Mitra and Varuta.
The big players.
The big players, yeah. And the initial forces at play. We basically built the framework of this Vedic universe.
And today we're pushing deeper. We're getting into the scientific code itself, moving from the purely conceptual to the mathematical and the physical. We're extracting the crucial knowledge from chapters 13, 14, 15, and 16. And these chapters, I mean, they deal with concepts that are just stunningly precise.
They really are.
We're talking about everything from the ultimate cosmic speed limit, the speed of light, all the way down to the microscopic architecture of the atomic nucleus and that fundamental cycle of creation and destruction.
And this is really where the mythological figures stop being, deities in a purely spiritual sense.
Right.
And they become measurable scientific entities. We're going to see how the sages encoded things like electromagnetic radiation, matter-antimatter symmetry, even the dynamics of pair production, all using these symbolic figures.
Okay, let's unpack this, starting with that universal and fundamental constant, the speed of light.
The ultimate speed limit.
Exactly. Chapter 13 focuses entirely on Surya. And the identification here is so critical for you to grasp. Surya isn't just the sun we see in the sky.
No, that's a complete paradigm shift the source requires. The celestial sun is just one local manifestation.
A local star.
Just a local star. The deity Surya represents light itself, the abstract concept of it, or, the photon within this entire cosmic framework.
And the source places him in Dayal, the light space, which really reinforces that idea. He belongs to the domain of light, not just our solar system.
Precisely. It's about the propagation of energy through that specific cosmic domain. It's fundamental.
And the Vedas use this identity to explain how things happen at the particle level. The source points out that Surya is explicitly called the eye of other key particles.
Yes, the eye of Mitra, who we identified as the proton.
It's a proton, right?
The eye of Varuta, the electron, and of Agni, which is energy itself.
So what does that mean, to be the eye of a proton?
Well, it's a beautiful functional analogy. Think about it. How do charged particles like protons and electrons perceive their environment? Or more scientifically, how do they exert forces on each other?
Through fields, through photons.
Through the exchange of electromagnetic waves, which is light. So Surya is literally the mechanism by which Mitra and Varuta observe and interact with everything around them.
They're constantly sending and receiving these signals.
Constantly. Surya is the medium of observation and interaction. It's the necessary eye for physics to even happen.
That provides the missing link, then, between the charged particles and the electromagnetic force they carry.
It does.
But light, the photon, it doesn't have mass. And Chapter 13 gets right into this, referencing the Veda's description of Gao particles.
Yes, and this is where the linguistic code is so striking. The source highlights this quote from the Ṛgveda. It asks a very philosophical-sounding question.
What's the question?
It asks, what does not possess mass? And the answer goes, cow does not possess mass.
A cow. Okay, that seems a little out of place in a physics discussion.
It does, right? If you read it literally, it makes absolutely no sense. But the word cow, Gao, is also a technical term. It's the name for the Gao particle.
The Vedic equivalent of the photon.
The Vedic equivalent of the photon. A particle that travels at the ultimate speed limit and is, by its very nature, massless. They used a common word, Gao, to subtly encode one of the most critical properties of light.
I have to stop you there, though. This is the kind of thing that makes people skeptical. Why use a word like cow? Couldn't that just be a coincidence? A scholar like Sayan, centuries later, just retrofitting the math onto an old agrarian term.
And that's a crucial and very necessary question to ask. The source tackles this by pointing to the consistency of the language.
Okay.
If Gao only showed up once in this very specific context, you could maybe argue coincidence, but it doesn't. The term Gao is repeatedly associated with concepts of movement, swiftness, radiation, all throughout the Vedic texts.
So it's a pattern.
It's a consistent pattern. And beyond that, the descriptions of Surya himself reflect both the particle nature, the Gao, and the field nature.
Ah, the field nature.
Right.
Right, that explains those really peculiar descriptions of Surya. They don't sound like a beam of light. They sound like fields.
Exactly.
I'm thinking of terms like Suchikesha, which is inflamed hair, or Kashina, fine hair, and especially Harikesha, green hair.
Precisely. If we accept Surya is the photon, why this obsession with hair, with Kesha? It's an analogy for Surya's field property.
The field lines.
The field lines. Light exists as both a localized particle, a Gao, and as an energy field that streams continuously. Hair is a perfect visual for the continuous streaming nature of electromagnetic field lines coming from a source. It emphasizes the wave aspect of wave-particle duality.
Which is a concept modern physics only formalized, a century ago.
If that.
And the colors are specific. You mentioned Harikesha, green hair. Why green? And why are the horses pulling Surya's chariot always described as 7 and green?
Okay, so the 7 green horses are highly symbolic. The number 7 in the Vedic model is consistently linked to the 7 dimensions of space.
The physical space inside the universal boundary.
Correct. So the horses represent propagation through those dimensions. Green likely refers to the energetic or luminous nature of these field lines. But there's another key detail about the horses.
With that.
They possess a duality. They can take the form of infinite brightness and vigor, and sometimes black.
Light and dark.
Particle and antiparticle. It's a symbolic representation of the photon and the antiphoton, emphasizing that fundamental pairing nature that's inherent in how energy manifests.
This all leads to maybe the most famous and frankly the most challenging claim in this chapter. The actual precise calculation of the speed of light. This is the moment where, if it holds up, it really confirms the scientific nature of the code.
It's the smoking gun, so to speak. And this detail, it doesn't come from the ancient Veda text itself. It comes from a commentary by Sunya, a scholar from the 14th century AD.
Okay, so much later. But he's interpreting the original text.
He is. And Sunya stated, referring to Surya's motion, that Surya traverses 2,202 yojanas in half anemia.
Can you break down those units for us?
Yeah.
Because they sound completely foreign.
Of course. A yojana is an ancient unit of length, depending on the context. It's roughly, let's say, between 5 and 9 miles. The source material standardizes it based on consistent astronomical use in these texts.
Okay. And anemia.
Anemia is an ancient unit of time. Specifically, it's the time it takes to blink your eye. So, critically, half an eme is calculated to be about 116th of a second.
A 16th of a second. So Sion is saying that light, Surya, moves 2,202 of these distance units in a 16th of a second.
Exactly. And when you take the traditional well-established values for these ancient units and you do the math, you convert it into modern miles per second, the result is astonishing.
What does it come out to?
It yields approximately 186,000 miles per second.
Which is the established modern speed of light in a vacuum. It's really hard to believe that's just a coincidence.
Yeah.
Not with that level of precision.
It strains credulity, doesn't it, to call that a coincidence? This calculation suggests 2 incredible things at once. First, that the Vedic tradition itself attributed this exact speed to Surya, encoding it in their mythology.
And second?
Second, it shows that scholars like Sion, centuries and centuries later, were still working within a system where these mythological numbers were understood to carry real, sophisticated mathematical weight. It proves this was a meticulously designed scientific code passed down through a lineage that valued this numerical consistency.
It just completely transformed Surya from a local sun god into the embodiment of the most fundamental constant in the entire universe.
And what's fascinating is the method. They couldn't have measured it directly, not with ancient technology. It would have been impossible. So instead, they encoded the constant into a story about cosmic motion, using units of time and distance from their own framework. It's just a stunning display of intellectual foresight.
All right, so moving from the ultimate speed limit to the fundamental cycle that actually makes up everything, Chapter 14 dives into the dance of creation and annihilation. This is the continuous transformation of energy into particles and back again. What we today would call pair production and annihilation.
And this is such a beautiful piece of synthesis in the text. It marries the The raw, hard physics of quantum field theory with this sweeping cosmic allegory.
It's poetry and physics at the same time.
It really is. This process of energy localizing into matter and matter dissolving back into energy is the fundamental cosmic dynamic. And the sages anthropomorphized it. They turned it into deities representing the two poles of the cycle. U for creation and Nākta for annihilation.
Let's start with Āpaḥ, the goddess of dawn. She clearly represents creation, specifically particles being born from energy. The text calls her Devoduhita.
The daughter of heaven.
Right, and that name seems very precise, suggesting where this all begins.
It's incredibly precise. Heaven, or Duao, is the light space. It's the domain of high-energy photons and the vacuum energy field. So where else would particle creation start? It has to start there, which is why Us is the daughter of heaven. She's that moment when energy becomes manifest matter.
There's another key observation here, that Surya, light, follows Us.
Yes, and that symbolizes a fundamental observation in particle physics. Particle creation is often accompanied by the emission of photons. Light is given off in the process. So Surya, the photon, naturally follows Uta, the creation event.
And what about the description of her movement? Her chariot is called Dakina, which is related to the right or the south. That feels like another one of those subtle scientific hints.
It's highly suggestive of concepts like spin or handedness, what physicists call chirality.
Okay.
If everything in this Vedic code has a function, then associating the creation phase with a specific direction, a handedness, strongly implies they understood that the particles being created have inherent directional or rotational properties. This is a very specific concept in quantum mechanics that dictates how particles interact.
So on the flip side of this cycle, you have Nākta, the night. If Uta is the bright moment of birth, Nākta is the darkness of destruction.
The covering darkness, yeah. She's identified as Pisagla, which means the devourer.
The devourer.
Nākta represents the annihilation phase. This is where matter meets its antimatter twin, and they both disappear, reverting back to pure energy. And her identification as Pishalila is critical. It's a direct link.
A link to what?
It links her directly to a particle we talked about in our last deep dive, the Aja particle.
Remind us what Aja is.
Aja is localized energy. It's that intermediate state between pure, unmanifested energy and fully formed matter. Because Aja is energy that's localized enough to kick off creation related to U, it's also the mechanism that devours matter during annihilation.
So by calling Nākta Pishalya, the source confirms Aja has this dual role. It's the seed for creation and the engine of destruction.
Exactly. It's the alpha and the omega of the particle cycle.
This constant, relentless back-and-forth creation, preservation, annihilation, it feels so familiar. It sounds like a central theme in later Hindu mythology.
Absolutely. The source suggests that this continuous universal process, this endless dance of energy and matter, is the physical reality that evolved into the later, much more famous representation of Lord Shiva as Nataraja.
The Lord of the Dancers. The Lord of the Dancers. Yeah. And this is a massive claim. The idea is that Nataraja's dance isn't just a metaphor, it's a spiritual visualization of quantum field dynamics. Okay, let's break that down, because that's a huge leap. How does the imagery, the iconography of Nataraja, actually map onto the physics of creation and annihilation?
We can map the specific elements one-to-one. Let's start with the ring of fire, the Prabha Mandala, that surrounds him.
Right, the circle he dances within.
That represents the totality of the cosmic energy field.
Right.
The plasma, the quantum foam from which all particles are born and to which they all return. It's the absolute energy source.
And what about the objects in his hands? He holds a drum and a flame.
The small drum, the Damaru, in his upper right hand symbolizes sound, or vibration shabda. This represents the initial energetic impulse, the fluctuation in the field that kicks off creation. That's U's role.
The creative spark.
The creative spark. And in his upper left hand, he holds a flame. The flame symbolizes destruction, annihilation. That's Nākta's role. It's the immediate, necessary destruction of matter-antimatter pairs back into energy, which keeps the universe in a state of constant flux.
So you have creation and annihilation held in perfect balance by his two upper hands. And he's standing on a small figure, a dwarf.
He dances on the dwarf Apasmara, who represents ignorance or inertia. In a physical sense, Apasmara is the principle of resistance, or maybe the stability needed to prevent the entire universe from instantly annihilating itself.
I see.
So Siva conquering Āpaḥ represents the triumph over that inertia, allowing the cosmic cycle to continue endlessly. The whole sculpture, especially the sense of rapid, continuous movement, just perfectly captures this quantum field concept where particles are constantly flashing into and out of existence.
And to have that annihilation, you first need creation. Which brings us right to chapter 15 on pair production and the idea of matter and its dark twin, antimatter.
The analogy they use here is, again, so scientifically precise. Particles and antiparticles are described as twins, born at the same instant from the same energy womb. This perfectly reflects the conservation laws that govern pair production. You can't create one without the other.
And they use color coding to make this duality clear.
They do. Matter is represented as white and antimatter is black. The source quotes the Ṛgveda. Two female twins manifest in various forms. Out of them, one is white and other is black. It's a simple, incredibly effective visual code for opposite charges or opposite quantum numbers.
And the first foundational pair of these twins are the mythic figures Yama and Yami.
Yes, Yama and Yami symbolize that very first particle and antiparticle pair formed from pure energy. But the critical part of their myth isn't just their birth, it's their interaction.
What happens between them?
Yami expresses this intense desire to procreate with Yama. Symbolically, this is the fundamental drive toward continuous pair creation. The universe wants to keep making more and more pairs.
But Yama rejects her.
He does. And his rejection is crucial. It symbolizes the need for balance and stability.
What does that mean in a physical sense? Why is that rejection so important for the universe?
Well, think about it. If Yami's desire, this drive for constant, unchecked creation, were allowed to run wild, it would lead to instantaneous universal annihilation.
Because every particle would immediately find its twin and disappear.
Exactly. The universe wouldn't survive its first moments. Yama's rejection symbolizes the essential stability mechanisms, things like the conservation of charge, parity, and other quantum numbers, that prevent this immediate catastrophic collapse. It ensures that matter can actually exist for a time before it's destroyed.
This leads us straight into one of the biggest problems in modern cosmology, the matter dominance problem.
The antimatter problem, yeah.
If matter and antimatter are created equally, in pairs, then why is our universe made almost entirely of matter? Where did all the antimatter go?
The modern Big Bang model really struggles with this. The leading theory is something called CP violation, the idea that in the very, very early universe, there was a tiny difference in how particles and antiparticles decayed.
A slight imbalance.
A tiny 1 in a billion excess of matter was left over. But it requires this very specific, one-time symmetry-breaking event right at the beginning.
So how does the Vedic view handle this? How is it different?
The Vedic view offers a dramatically different, and you could argue, a more elegant solution. It's based on continuous creation.
Not a single event.
Not a single event. The Veda argues that matter and antimatter are constantly being created, specifically at the surface of the universe, the cosmic eggshell, Vitra. And crucially, the process itself has an inherent continuous imbalance that favors matter.
So it's not that a bunch of antimatter is missing from an ancient event. It's that matter is just being topped up a little bit faster all the time at the edges of the universe.
That's it exactly. It's a continuous cumulative mechanism that naturally leads to our matter-dominated universe over cosmic ages.
And for this continuous creation to happen, there has to be some kind of communication across that cosmic boundary.
There does. And this brings us to the fascinating story of Sarama and the Panties.
Okay, set the scene for us. Who are they?
Sarama is the messenger of Indra, who represents the electric force. She's sent on a mission to find the cows, the Gao particles, or fundamental particles, that a group called the Panties are hoarding deep inside the cosmic rock, the boundary of the universe.
And the most pivotal part of this story are Sarama's helpers, her dogs, or spies.
Yes. These spies are identified as virtual particles.
Wow. Okay, explain that.
In modern physics, how does an electron, Varuta, exert a force on another particle without ever touching it? It's constantly emitting and reabsorbing these tiny, fleeting, undetectable packets of energy.
The virtual particles.
The virtual particles, they're like probing arms that only exist for a moment to transmit a force. Sarama, as the electric force, uses these spies, her dogs, to probe the cosmic boundary and interact with the Panties.
So the entire dialogue between Sarama and the Panties is a metaphor for the struggle of the electric force trying to, pull new particles into existence from the universal boundary.
It's a stunning personification of one of the most abstract parts of quantum field theory. The Panchis, who are hoarding this matter-energy wealth, they represent the opposition. The restrictive forces, maybe gravity or the weak force, that prevent easy expansion.
Right. Vutra is the surface tension, and the Panchis are another force of resistance.
Exactly. But the core principle is clear. This cosmological myth describes the quantum interaction needed to ensure the continuous supply of matter and energy that the universe requires to keep evolving.
The fact that they envisioned a need for temporary force-carrying spies that just flash into and out of existence, and then wove that into a story about a goddess and her dogs, it's just a testament to the level of detail they encoded.
The genius is taking a quantum necessity and making it memorable, making it a story.
We've covered light, cosmic forces, the cycle of creation. Now, Chapter 16 introduces probably the most revolutionary idea yet, that some of the most famous figures in Vedic lore, the revered sages, the Rishis, are not historical people at all.
No.
They're symbolic representations of scientific concepts.
This is maybe the most profound interpretive leap the source material makes. The sages aren't just authors or wise old men. They are embodiments of physical laws or cosmological structures. The definition of the word itself supports this.
What's the etymology?
The term rishi, or sage, comes from the idea of seeing. A rishi is one who can see the underlying reality, the cosmic code, and their names, when you break them down, reveal their scientific identities.
And the prime example, the centerpiece of this whole idea, is the sage Vasya.
Vasya, his name means most wealthy.
And the wealth in this context is particles.
The wealth is the particles it contains, and he's consistently described as being white, which signifies a positive charge.
And so the scientific identification for Vasya is
The atomic nucleus.
the nucleus of an atom.
And the strongest proof for this is his impossible mythological parentage. Vasya is known as Maitravaru,
Meaning
he is the son of Mitra, the proton, and Varuda, the electron.
a son of a proton and an electron. That's biologically impossible.
Completely impossible for a human, but for an atom, it's the perfect physical definition. A central structure, the nucleus, made of protons and neutrons, that's Mitra, residing inside an electron cloud, Varuda. The nucleus is positively charged, it's white, it's relatively immobile, and it contains almost all the atom's wealth, its mass. The symmetry is just stunning.
Okay, if a Vas is the nucleus, you've got a problem. You have all these positively charged protons crammed together. Electrostatic repulsion should blow them apart instantly.
It should. You need a force to hold them together, and that's where the supporting sage comes in, Agastya.
Agastya. What does his name mean?
Agastya's name is the key. It means one who does not move or fixed. The nucleus, Vasya, is massive and essentially immobile compared to the electrons zipping around it. Agastya's mythical role is to hold Vasya steady. Scientifically, he represents the stabilizing forces. The strong nuclear force, the binding energy, the confinement principles that keep all those repulsive protons locked in one place.
So Agastya is the anchor. He's the force ensuring nuclear stability.
He is. And we get even more confirmation from Vasyata's birth story.
We'll go on.
He was born from Apsara, which is a flowing form of Āpaḥ, that primordial matter-antimatter soup, and he was born inside a vessel, or a jar.
The birth in a vessel symbolizes confinement.
Exactly, the precise quantum conditions you need for protons and neutrons to bind together and form a nucleus. But the most explicit proof comes from a prayer Vasyata makes to Varuda.
What does he pray for?
He prays, "When will I be inside Varuda, and we will live inside Varuda sinless." Now, if we just plug in the identities, Vasita is the nucleus, Varuda is the electron cloud.
Then the prayer is a perfect scientific statement. The nucleus resides inside the electron cloud.
Precisely. It's a fundamental statement about atomic structure, hidden in a prayer.
And what really cements all of this is the archaeological evidence the source brings in. The Mohenjo-Daro seal, the one often called the fig deity seal.
Yes. This seal, which is over 5,000 years old, it seems to visually encode this entire physics concept. It suggests this knowledge was just part of their civilization's symbolic language.
Describe the seal. What does it show?
It shows Vasya as a human figure being born in a jar or vessel. That's the nucleus forming in confinement. Agastya is clearly shown outside the jar, holding him steady. He's the fixed, stabilizing force. And finally, the seal has the fish sign on it.
And the fish represents?
The fish represents Mitra and Varuda, the proton and electron, who are said to oversee the universe without blinking, reflecting their constant fields and activity.
So you have the birth, the stabilizer, and the parent particles, all captured on one tiny artifact. That is incredible evidence that this was a deliberate code, not just some accidental story.
And this methodology, this naming convention, it's consistent across the other famous sages, which reinforces how systemic the code is. The source breaks down the names of the other rishis who supposedly authored the books of the Ṛgveda.
Give us another example.
Okay, take Kanhwa, the sage of the 8th book. His name comes from the root pant, which means a minute particle. So his work could correspond to the study of the smallest constituents of matter. Or there's Athri, sage of the 5th book. His name means devourer.
Fitting a concept like absorption or transformation of energy, maybe entropy.
Or decay, exactly.
Yeah.
And the sage associated with those virtual particles we just talked about.
The dogs of Sarama.
That's Kutsamata. His associated term, Shanaka, literally means related to dog, directly linking him to the virtual particles, the spies that probe the universe. The consistency across all these famous names, transforming them from historical figures into scientific functions. It's the ultimate proof of the depth of this code.
This whole segment is our deep dive. It's just revealed this incredible scientific foresight. We've gone from the fastest thing in the universe, light, with its speed encoded in a 14th century commentary, down to the densest thing, the atomic nucleus, all hidden in these ancient myths about dancers and sages.
What really stands out to me is the elegance of it all. It's so systematic. They didn't just stumble on one or two ideas. They created this cohesive, interlocking system. Nataraja defines quantum field dynamics. Sarama defines virtual particle interactions. Yama and Yami define matter stability. And Vasya defines the core structure of the atom itself.
It's a full scientific blueprint, just disguised as spiritual literature.
It really is.
And that solution to the matter dominance problem. Yeah. Suggesting this continuous cumulative imbalance at the edge of the cosmos. It's such a refreshing and honestly a simpler idea than the modern model's reliance on one single ancient event.
And this raises a really important question for you, the listener, to think about. If this ancient wisdom contains such precise analogies for things we've only recently confirmed, like virtual particles, nuclear confinement, the exact speed of light, what other secrets are still locked away in there? What do they encode about the multidimensional nature of space, or the other fundamental forces, or the ultimate laws of cosmology?
The implications are just massive, and that search for the ultimate scientific blueprint is going to continue. We will dive into the remaining concepts from this material, exploring topics like the Gallery of Gods and the revolutionary Vedic cosmology in our next deep dive.